New York and Columbus hooking up for the first time this season. It will be a Saturday night game in the great state of Ohio. Chris, tell me about this Crew team so far. Obviously, the advancing into the CONCACAF Champions Cup the next round with the elimination of Houston. You would think, I think coaches don't mind the 3 in a week idea in the middle of the season. I'm not sure anyone loves it in the very beginning of the year. So we might see a little bit of roster rotation, not asking you to give away the farm, but I know this is a pretty deep Columbus Crew team where there are a lot of pieces that can contribute.
Yeah, that's a great point, Doc, and it's great to be with you. The guys admitted, even Cucho on Tuesday night after the draw over Houston, but as you said, on aggregate, the win in that 2-leg series with Houston, that he was tired. And if he's tired, then some of the other guys are probably feeling some fatigue too. But to Wilfried Nancy's credit, he's got a roster with players who are not only willing and able to step in games like Tuesday night's game. Witness Yevon Shaburko, for example, is a left center back, but he's also got guys who are flexible in terms of tactically where do they fit in the scheme of things. And Sean Zawadzki anchored the back line, so Rudy Camacho comes into the Saturday night matchup against the Red Bulls fresh and likely a starter against the Red Bulls on Saturday at lower.com field. Steven Moreira did play the whole game, but he's coming back from a preseason that required him to be with his national team, Cape Verde, and did not get a lot of minutes training with the Crew. Of course, Moreira, who was one of the leaders in terms of passing numbers and passing accuracy last year in the lead up to the MLS Cup, is a natural fit at that right center back location. And I think he'll probably get the nod on Saturday as well. Not going to go through the entire 11 because I actually don't have the answers, but you should know that the bolstering of the roster in the offseason does indeed help Columbus rebound from what has been a very busy schedule. And our benefit going into this one with the Red Bulls stock is the fact that we've played the last 2 games at home, so there hasn't been any travel. And heading into the matchup with lower.com field is going to be a positive for the black and gold.
Chris, one of the more impressive, I'll say, dynamic duos of Major League Soccer has to be Cucho and Diego Rossi. Tell me about the two of them and their partnership as they have continued to grow together a little bit.
Well, I think they imbalance two sides of the field. Cucho loves to attack from the outside. He's deadly up the middle, but he loves to come in from the flank. And so if you can isolate a couple of defenders on one side of the field with Mo Farsi and Cucho Hernandez, and you can get a break into the corner, Cucho has no problem with a service that'll put someone like Diego Rossi in the proper position to finish. I think one of the things we've not seen from Diego Rossi is the precision in the final third when it comes to finishing a play. He told me over the course of the preseason, he came in with the same mentality in terms of his preparation, his fitness level. And even though those guys spent a couple of months together leading up to the championship last year, I think we're still seeing the fruits of the labor that comes from time spent together and chemistry that's building. So I think what we have enjoyed so far, Doc, is the skill of the individual talent that both Cucho and Diego bring to the table. I think we're still waiting for that really lethal combination between those two to get us through game in and game out.
Chris, I'll say the expectations for this Columbus team. I know it's only mid-March, off to a pretty decent start in MLS regular season play, advancing into the next round of the Champions Cup. Are the expectations as high as they've ever been off the championship a year ago?
I think it's fair to say that Tim Bezbatchenko's aspiration, as he speaks for the club, the president and general manager, is saying that they want to be relevant on the global stage, much like the Red Bulls, because you've got that network over in Europe. Columbus doesn't have that network over in Europe, but as it pertains to the North American continent, certainly Columbus wants to be relevant in the conversation. And that's why bolstering the roster, number one, making sure that there may be some wiggle room for some play in the July transfer window is important as well. And then at the same time, you have to be aware that young players in the mix like Aiden Morris and Patrick Schulte, the goalkeeper, may be attracting attention from Europe. You have to be prepared to fill those gaps when they occur.
From a standpoint, Chris, and we can finish with this one, we saw Wilfried Nancy up in Montreal, didn't always have the resources to put together the best team, but I think everyone in Major League Soccer recognized he was a really good coach, and he's now taken that to another level in Columbus. And I think one of the things that's so impressive about him, and correct me if I'm wrong, you don't always hear about how good of a coach he is, which I think is right in line with who he is. He would rather fly under the radar and let people not always realize just how good he is, but he seems like he is a perfect fit for a Columbus organization.
That's a really good point, Doc. I'm old enough to remember when Bob Knight was the head coach of the IU basketball program, and Bob Knight's coaching style was out there because everyone saw it every Saturday afternoon from Assembly Hall. It was fiery, it was in your face, it was filled with rumors of what was going on at training week in and week out. And you're right, you don't have that with a Wilfried Nancy type character. He does, in fact, his style requires that he is in tune with his players, not in tune with social media, not in tune with responding to the next rumor mill talking point. So I think where his focus is, and he has made this clear since he arrived in Columbus, his focus is on the relationships with his players and how best he can go from player to player and get the most out of them. He challenges them not just as players in a professional league, but he challenges them as young men. And I think you're seeing the benefits of that.
So we won't see any chairs thrown across the field. Probably unlikely that that will happen come Saturday.
I'm not suggesting that you have seen that live. I'm suggesting that you probably saw that on social media years after you were able to finally get your first phone, Doc. But yeah, that's right. We won't see any chairs flying. He's super cerebral. And you're right. Maybe he didn't have the resources in Montreal, but I think he's got the backing of an organization and an ownership group in Columbus that's going to allow him to really prosper with these players in this club.
Chris, appreciate your time as always. Look forward to seeing you in the next 24 hours or so, and this Red Bull crew lineup. The matchup will always be interesting. It always is. And thanks for coming on, giving us a couple minutes.
Doc, thanks. Love seeing the Red Bulls at lower.com and looking forward to seeing you.